In the next 3 minutes, we're going to show you how to fully set up and configure our free Health Check app so that you can run regular health checks on your Business Central environment on demand. Like with all of our apps, you'll first need to download it from App Source, but unlike our other applications, this does not require a demo or activation key, as it is completely free, meaning you can utilize it forever at no charge. Once the application is downloaded, make sure that you add our Health Check user permissions to all users in the system, as well as our Health Check setup permissions to anyone that will need to perform the following actions. Once this has been completed, you're ready to do the quick configuration that follows. So let's take a look here in the system. So in order to find that app, go ahead and search Health Check, and we'll start with this Health Check setup. We'll get into the dashboard in the subsequent videos. So search for Health Check, go to the setup, and one of the first things that you'll see on the screen here is this user setup. Now, we've just completed the user permissions in the first step, but this will further define which users are actually able to launch the dashboard. So in this step, you can simply click the user setup here and then start to add in the users as well as their default view and time period that you can see here. After that's done, we can go out here, and the next thing you'll need to do is simply activate the extension right here. After this, you're ready to move down to the accounting tab, which is the only thing really here that needs to be configured. So this last run date is simply a reference point for the customer late payer indicators on the accounting tab that we'll see in our next video. No action is needed at this time, but it is a good reference point if you're ever wondering when the past time your late payer indicators were refreshed. Next is this average payday indicator threshold. This will be the buffer to highlight customers as chronic overdue or late payers. For example, if a customer's payment terms are net 30, the current setup would give them a 5-day buffer, meaning they wouldn't be flagged as a late payer, which will be highlighted in red, until they go 35 days overdue. 5 is just a number we like to use as an example, but this can be configured to whatever your buffer preferences are. After this, we have our number of payment receipts for APD, which stands for average paydays. This indicates how many payments you want to look at when calculating the customer's day sales outstanding or DSO. In this case, we have 10 payments being included in this calculation. That means that the health check will look at the customer's last 10 payments that were made compared to the invoices that those payments were applied to. It will then utilize the metrics to define on average how long your customer typically takes to pay. This can also be used in other areas in the system to define on an invoice by invoice basis when you can expect your customers to pay you based on the past performance that we see here. On the right-hand side, we have our number series warnings. This acts as an indicator to tell you when I get this many numbers away from the ending number, show up on the health check dashboard. As an example, if my invoice ending number was invoice 1000, it would start to show up as a warning when I hit invoice 900 in the dashboard. You can, of course, configure this to your needs as well. The final two pieces we have here are our old sales documents and purchase documents. This is essentially the period of time you want to ignore in the setup. So in this case, it would ignore everything in the current month and would not flag those as old documents. Anything last month or older would show on the old documents indicator. You can also use other popular date examples like -1M to show everything older than the last rolling month, then anything older than 30 days would show. Or -1W, for example, to show anything outstanding for longer than a week. This, like everything else we've just seen, is totally configurable by you as well. Once these key setups have been completed, you are ready to navigate to the Health Check dashboard to start analyzing your data. Once you've done that, we can go into the dashboard directly, and the first two metrics that we see over here on the left that we're going to take a look at are our bank account posting group balances and subledger to general ledger balance checks. We like to start here because this is typically a key indicator if you are performing optimally in Business Central. Think of this as your check engine light. Just like you're taking your car in regularly to the shop for a tune-up, you will likely want to check on this periodically. We recommend having this be part of your month-end checklist and your month-end close. So when it comes to the balance checks up top, cash is still king. This first metric will show you which GL account each bank account is tied to through its bank account posting group. As a general rule of thumb and best practice, each bank account should have a 1-to-1 relationship with its GL account. This makes it much easier to reconcile your accounts at month end and will also ensure that your bank account posting group balance, which should also be a one-to-one relationship with your bank accounts, ties out to the general ledger account that it's assigned to. If they are not, that likely means you've made entries directly to the general ledger when they should have been posted to through the bank account subledger. In just a few moments, we'll also show you how to identify accounts that have direct posting turned on, meaning that you are allowed to post directly to the GL, bypassing these subledgers, and also how to fix that moving forward. As a general rule of thumb, any account tied to a subledger posting group like bank account posting group, customer posting group, and vendor posting group, just to name a few, should have direct posting turned off. Luckily, everything's looking good here for the bank accounts, but as we get into our subledger to general ledger balance checks next, we will show you a few warnings to look into. Similar to the bank accounts, we also show if your subledgers and general ledgers tie out. All customer activity, for example, is tied to an AR account that can be found in their customer posting group. If these numbers here are out of balance, as we see they are, it likely means that someone posted directly to accounts receivable where the AR is not actually tied to a customer. This is, of course, a big no-no and will need to be resolved. Once resolved, you'll want to make sure that your allow direct posting is turned off in your AR GL account card. In this case, we can see, as mentioned, that AR does not tie out and inventory also needs a closer look. For AP, we also have our AP account tied to vendors and our bank account posting groups tied to our cash accounts and our bank accounts. Again, these both look good and don't need further action, but we would want to look further into our AR and our inventory. The next thing that we see over here on the right is our balance by bank account. This is crucial to ensure your cash positions are healthy, and in this case, we have both cash accounts and credit card accounts set up as bank accounts in the system. Here we can see that we have plenty of cash to cover our current credit card liabilities, but you also may need to take a more qualitative look at this based on the size of your business and the types of activities that you're doing. Next, we're going to scroll down and take a look at our customer aging and late payer indicators. If you remember from the setups we reviewed in the first video, this will look at both the average paydays of each individual customer and compare it to their payment terms. If the average paydays is greater than the terms, it will highlight them in red and flag them as a late payer. You can then filter by the average paydays, the late payer flag, or the balance. You can also drill into the balance to see which customer ledger entries make up the balance and even apply unapplied payments to invoices directly from this screen, as it's simply giving a glimpse into the out-of-box customer ledger entry table at this stage. Again, like I mentioned, you can filter and sort up and down. You can come in here and filter just to the late payer flags. Maybe we want to say that, yes, they are late payers. Again, all types of out-of-box filters and sorts are available here. Now, over to the right, we have some of our direct posting warnings that we talked about before. So as mentioned previously, if you have GL accounts that are being posted to through subledgers, you typically want direct posting turned off. Exceptions can be made for income statement accounts, as we see here. However, for any balance sheet accounts like your checking account that we see, we should definitely be turning direct posting off for these, as cash, in this case the checking account, should always be posted to via the bank account, and then the GL will automatically be triggered based on the bank account posting group setups that they're tied to. So let's scroll down a little bit more to our number series warnings. Again, if you remember the setups, we defined an indicator in the setup. In our case, it was 100. If we look at the first line, we see that the ending number is 1098, and the last number used was 1047. This is within the 100 digits, and therefore it is time to update our ending number. Otherwise, after creating about 50 more items in Business Central, it will no longer allow us to create new items in that auto numbering sequence, and it's going to flag us and warn us that we have to update this anyways. So again, another way to be proactive in the system, updating the numbers in your number series before they expire. Finally, let's scroll down to the very bottom, and we will see our ship not invoiced and old sales documents, as well as the same on our purchasing side for received not invoiced and old purchasing documents. For the received and ship not invoiced indicators, this is showing documents that were either sales documents that have been shipped, but the invoice has not been sent to the customer, or purchase orders that were received, but you did not receive the invoice from your vendor. All documents in this list need to be addressed because typically the longer they sit, received or shipped not invoiced, the harder it's going to be to maintain accruals and account for them correctly, as well as putting revenue and expenses into the right posting periods and maintaining inventory valuations. The final piece here is the old sales documents and old purchase documents. If you remember from our first video on the setups, here's where you can enter the date range. In my case, we had -CM, which means that it will not show anything created this month, but will show anything created last month or older. So this is a good way to quickly review and clean up old documents. You can, of course, also drill directly into the documents from this window. So if I wanted to see what this one was, I could go ahead and click on it, and it's going to drill into those sales lines, and you can even show the document from here. So at this point, you've run through the full accounting tab of the health check. We recommend running this on a regular basis, and many of our clients include this exercise as part of their month-end close and month-end checklist. By utilizing the health check, you can see here that in just a few minutes, you can run through all of your key accounting indicators and search for outliers. Hopefully you have a similar experience of going to the doctor each year and coming back with a clean bill of health, but if there are any indicators that you need help looking into, we would be more than happy to recommend a specialist that can take a closer look. So without further ado, let's take a look at the posting group setups. So these setups will show the combination of all currently set up general business posting groups and general product posting groups, as well as show if the combination exists or not. In the below case, we can see that there's no setup pertaining to a blank general business posting group with the product posting group of product indicated by this checkbox right here. Additionally, it's going to show for the ones that are set up if the key accounts are set up as well. When looking at this, we're looking at things like our sales account, as well as our sales credit memo account, our purchase and purchase credit memo accounts, our cost of goods sold accounts, and our direct cost applied accounts if I scroll a little bit to the right over here. Of course, there are more fields included in the general posting setup, as you know, that you may want to check, but for our simplicity, we recommend starting out with these as a minimum. When posting to sales and purchasing documents, the general business posting group is going to be assigned to those customers and vendors, and the general product posting group is going to be assigned to your items and resources. So without having these accounts populated, you could run into some significant posting errors when creating and posting those documents. So that's it for this. The next metric we're going to look at over here is our posting range setups. These are key because they drive who can post to certain date ranges. You want to ensure these are locked down to only periods you intend users to post into to avoid errant posting to closed or past periods, as well as future periods that should not be posted into yet. It includes both posting and deferral date ranges, as you can see here. The first selection pertains to the setups found in the general ledger setup. These serve as the overall system dates. If you do not have the user setup dates that we'll talk about next defined below, all users will inherit these settings. In this case, all users not defined below would be able to post to any date in 2024. Seeing that it is currently November as I record this video, you likely don't want all users posting to dates in the past and would generally recommend that you allow the posting to be between 11/1/2024 and 11/30/2024, rather than allowing all past dates in 2024 to be open, as well as next month. Furthermore, below the general ledger setup settings, we also have the individual date settings that can be found in the user setup. These settings override the above if the users are listed here and similar rules would apply. In this case, I can post to any date after January 1st, 2024, as well as any deferral date in the future or in the past since these are blank. This probably needs to be locked down as well. For Carly, her posting setup looks great and she can only post to this month, but we may want to push her deferrals out a bit further because they're locked down to just this month. Next, looking at Grant's setup, he can post to July, August, September, October, and the current month of November, which we probably also want to narrow down a bit further. Overall, these setups are key to ensuring users can post to the correct dates and should be reviewed regularly. This is something else that we would highly recommend you look at each month-end close. Next, we have our closed accounting periods down in the bottom left-hand side. These indicate which periods have been closed. In my case, only 2021 has been closed. These settings can be found by searching for accounting periods. This would indicate that we likely have not closed enrolled profit and loss accounts to retained earnings for 2022 or 2023. This is another great indicator to review and ensure periods are being closed out in a timely manner and that you're rolling your income and expenses to retained earnings at the end of each year. Similar, the past periods, you will also want to ensure the current and future periods have been created in the accounting periods over here on the right. By looking at the accounting period warnings, you can see where necessary setups are missing for current and future periods. This can negatively impact reporting when running various reports like your balance sheet and income statements, plus any other financial reports that you have set up that are relying on these accounting periods. Here, anything within the next 12 months that is missing will be flagged with a checkbox, as we can see here over to the right. So at this point, you've run through the full setup tab of the health check. We recommend running this on a regular basis, and many of our clients do include this exercise as part of their month-end close checklist. By utilizing the health check, you can see that here just in a few minutes, you can run through all of your key setup indicators quickly and efficiently to identify areas for improvement. Just like you take your car in every 6 months for an oil change and tire rotation, you will want to run this regularly to make sure you're running efficiently. But if there are any indicators that you need help looking into, we would be more than happy to recommend a mechanic that can take a deeper look under the hood. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at our inventory data for our health check. So the first thing that you'll see over here on the left is our negative inventory warnings. This one is pretty self-explanatory and will give you a quick list of any items you currently have a negative quantity on hand for. If that's the case, don't worry, you likely just have that prevent negative inventory warning in the inventory setup turned off. But after we fix the issues that we find here today, you can simply prevent this from happening again in the future by toggling this on. This is a setup we typically recommend as it will help optimize how you're managing inventory and prevent your organization from selling inventory that you currently do not have in stock, which, as you can imagine, can lead to some not so happy customers when you can't deliver in a timely manner, especially with today's rising lead times that we've seen over the past few years. So before jumping into this inventory valuation and statistics, let's just review a few of the fields that we see here. So one, of course, we have our inventory item number. You can click into that and it will drill down. You can also see the description. The quantity on hand obviously is the most important piece here that we see. So we can see that this one has -8, -6, -71. We can see their base unit of measure, the unit price, the unit cost, the primary vendor number, as well as the item number for that vendor. So again, just a quick glimpse into some indicators of things that you probably want to look into. And then after you've been able to fix these, you can turn that flag that we talked about earlier off. So again, only two things here, but that first is the negative inventory warnings. The next is going to be this grid we see over here to the right for our inventory value and statistics. Now, what this is going to show first is all of the items that we currently have in the system. You can quickly see their item number, their description, their item category, general product posting group, some key setup fields, right? So I'm going to just sort this, and we can now see that we've got some missing descriptions, we've got some missing item categories, some missing general product posting groups. So again, just like everything else, some indicators to show you, hey, you might want to go into item 1034 and set up all the other information because it's all blank right now, right? You might want to set up these item category codes. You might want to review general product posting groups to ensure these are the right general product posting groups, because that's going to have a huge key factor on where everything gets posted to from a general ledger standpoint, right? As we scroll more over to the left here, we can see some more numbers or statistics, right? So we see how many currently are on sales orders, how many are currently on purchase orders, right? So right now, if we look at our quantity on hand here, we've got 291 quantity on hand here. We've got 138 on sales orders, and we've got 43 on purchase orders. So kind of conceptually, does that make sense or not? We have 873 in our days supply. So again, based on our average daily sales over here, which is 0.3 units per day, we're good for the next 873 days according to Business Central. So looking at that all qualitatively as well, you can start to compare some of your supply demand factors to, do we really need to buy 43 of these right now based on those metrics? Lead time calculation, we're in a demo instance here, so that one looks a little funky, but it's a great health check indicator, right? Negative 171 days is unrealistic, so I would want to dig into that to see why we're getting that statistic, because now our DSLT, our days supply lead time ratio, is negative, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if we scroll over here, we can see our inventory value. So currently we have $241,000 in inventory of this item 1017. I think that was a Microsoft Surface. Yep. And then we've got similar in 1018, our MacBook Air. We've got 226,000 in stock. We can see the unit cost. We can see the unit price. So again, unit cost and unit price here makes sense. But on this one, we don't have a price defined, which could lead to salespeople updating the price errantly, or somebody coming in there and not knowing what the price is, so they plug something, and then your profitability can get a little bit out of whack. we look over here at our sales dollars, our sales quantities, as well as our purchase dollars and purchase quantities, just some more statistics around these inventory items. Did not mention this earlier, but you can see some hyperlinks here. You can drill into all that and it will bring up those entries. And then the final piece we have here is our primary vendor number, similar to what we saw over here on the negative inventory warnings. So again, just a reference point, but as you can see at this point, this is a great starting point to analyze all of your inventory in the system and call out any health check indicators. So again, at this point, you've basically run through the full inventory tab of the health check, and we do recommend running this on a regular basis, as many of our clients do, and include it as part of their month-end close and month-end checklist. So by utilizing this health check, you can see here that in just a few minutes, you're able to run through all of your key inventory indicators in one spot. I like to compare it to taking your car in every 6 months for an oil change or a tire rotation. You're going to do this regularly to make sure that your car is running efficiently. But if there are any indicators that you do need help looking further into, we can always recommend that mechanic, to take a deeper look under the hood. Next 5 minutes, we're going to show you how to analyze key system data in our free health check app so that you can run regular health checks on your Business Central environment on demand. If you have not yet set up the application, we would highly recommend doing so. We've got a video, the first in our series, that shows you how to walk through all of this, and we would consider that a prerequisite to be successful with the dashboard. So go ahead and review that first, and once completed, you'll want to jump directly into the health check dashboard here to start analyzing some of your system indicators. So the first thing we're going to look at over here on the left is our user tracking data. This will quickly indicate the users that you have in Business Central and if they have logged in. If so, it will also show when the last time they logged in was. So this can be great for ensuring that people who, say that they're logging in and testing things, maybe during a UAT phase, are actually doing so, or just your day-to-day employees to ensure that they're logging in when they say they are. Additionally, it will also quickly indicate which user license that they are currently allocated. So if this doesn't look correct, you may want to go ahead and run that update from Microsoft 365 function that can be found in the user page. Finally, it will also show the type of user that they are, whether they're a full user, an application user, or an external user. And this can also help further delineate who has access to your system. So again, if I just look at this, we can see that I logged in today at 7:13 a.m. And I'm currently logged in. We can also see some other users that are logged in here in the past. So maybe we need to kill their session, or maybe they don't work here anymore. We can also see the license level. I'm an internal administrator, plus I have a Dynamics 365 Essentials license, and I am also a full user. We also have things like Clockify, where that's going to be an application user. It's not an actual login. Whereas we can have, internal administrators just versus folks that have a team member license maybe, or others that have a full-blown Essentials license. So use this to, again, analyze who's logged in, when they've logged in, what license type they have, and what license or administrator role that they're currently assigned. The next that we're going to look at over here is our job queue warnings. This is one of my personal favorites. This can be helpful, as we are definitely going to want to know if job queues are failing, as that means they are not running. We also have some additional functionality where you can actually get an email when they fail real time, so that you don't necessarily have to just check this every day. You can be real time notified, but this, again, from a dashboard perspective, is a great way to see things that have failed and that need your attention. For example, one we saw recently was someone's currencies that were not updating. This can obviously cause a lot of downstream issues when it comes to currency valuations and gain loss reconciliations and things like that. So in this case, that's something that we would have wanted to resolve immediately, and that email would have been very useful. And you can do so then by navigating to the job queue entries, reviewing the issues from the email, restart that or reschedule that job queue that needs attention, and then you should be good to go. The other thing we will point out is if you scroll over to the right here, it will also show you the last run date and time, as well as the error message that is currently displayed on that job queue. So just two additional pieces of information that can be helpful when trying to further analyze why this job queue is failing. We just talked about currencies, and speaking of, the last piece that we're going to look at over here on the right is our currency exchange rate last updated warning. So this is important as you want to make sure exchange rates are being updated regularly. If you are not doing this currently, please feel free to follow up and I can send some instructions on how to automatically update rates on a daily basis. What this is going to quickly show is the last time rates were manually adjusted, what the last exchange rate date you have in the system is, and what the rate that's currently being used is. In this case, we can see that although there is a Canadian rate identified, it has not been updated in almost 9 months. Additionally, the euro and the peso are set up, however, they've never been assigned rates or updated. Likely you're not using these rates at all and may not be needed, but if that is not the case, this is definitely something that you'd want to look into ASAP. At this point, you have run through the full setup tab of the health check. We do recommend running this on a regular basis, and many of our clients do include this exercise as part of their month-end close checklist. By utilizing this health check, you can see here that in just a few minutes, we ran through all of your key system indicators. So come out to the dashboard here, and you're ready to look at our first changelog metric over here to the left. Now, I will note that you have to have the out-of-box changelog tracking or field monitoring features turned on for this piece to work. The records you see over here on the left are being triggered from one or the other. And the main difference between the two is that field monitoring is more proactive and will actually email you when the data you are tracking changes, whereas the change logs are going to be more reactive, where as things are changing, they'll simply show up in this dashboard for you to check down the road. If you've not set this up, again, you will need to in order to be successful with this dashboard. One example we always like to use is our vendor bank account and routing number, as typically this can be a good fraud indicator. Once you set this up, any changes that are triggered by what you are now tracking will show up here in this easy to view grid. Not only will it show you when the data changed and who changed it, but it will also show you the previous value and what the current value is. For anyone looking to track changes in the system on key fields, this is going to be a game changer. However, you do not want to bog the system down by tracking too much data, so we would not recommend checking all fields in the changelog setup. Again, these are all out-of-box settings, but if now we look at our data, like I mentioned, we can look at a vendor bank account or just a regular bank account. We can see who changed it, the user in the system, when they changed it, what record they're changing, right? So what vendor record or what bank account record. And if I scroll a bit more over here to the left, it'll tell us what field was changed. Was it a modification? Was it a delete? Was it an insert? What was the old value? And what was the new value over here? So if again, you're looking to track who's changing things, what the old value was and what the new value was, this can be a game changer. The next thing I talked about is not tracking too much data, not only from an all fields perspective, but also from a retention policy perspective. So let's take a look over here at the right on our retention policy warnings on our changelog health check. So this will show you the table IDs on which you have retention policies, as well as if they are currently enabled and how often that data is cleared out. As you can see here, there's still some more work to be done as we only have 2 of these enabled, and of the 2, only one has a retention policy. In order to not slow your system down, we would recommend putting retention policies in place that ensure your data is only being kept for a period of time or duration that is absolutely necessarily required. So of the 2 that are enabled, let's take a look at this one, 5395, that's enabled and has a retention policy. So this one, in my opinion, would be good to go. As we can see, we have it enabled, applying to all of the records, and that retention policy here, if we drill into it and show the details, we can have different periods of time for different data that we're tracking. And if I show the details, again, this would just be part of the out-of-box setup where you set up the code, the description, and then some of the retention settings here as to how long you want to keep that data. So again, for this one, it's only going to keep data for the past week as indicated by the -1W or -1 week. So at this point, you've run through the full changelog health check and concluded the multi-video series on our health check application. You can go back and review these videos on demand at any point in time, and we really do appreciate you tuning in. Just like some of the examples we shared before, whether it be taking your car in for an oil change, getting your annual physical, or just making sure you're getting that routine dental cleaning, your Business Central health check is going to be just as important. We would recommend running this alongside your month-end close process and adding it to your month-end close checklist, as fixing problems proactively is much less time-consuming and much easier to fix rather than after it's too late. If you do need any recommendations on who to work with to optimize your system, we'd be more than happy to help, but we always recommend starting with your partner. We really appreciate you tuning in again and hope that you have much success in your future health check endeavors. And as always, we appreciate your dedication to optimizing the user experience within D365 Business Central.